Hey, all, you're listening to Yank on the Footy. My name is Con Sotidis, a football lover, an AFL football lover, all the way down from Melbourne, Australia. Listen to this podcast and a little bit about my passion, my background, and also why the Collingwood Magpies are a team of tragedy.
It's Craig Wessels from A Yank on the Footy, and welcome to episode 117. I'm coming to you from chilly Sandusky, Ohio. I'm thrilled that you're listening. The holiday season is upon us as I'm recording this on the 23rd of December, and I hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you happen to be. Looked like it's a little bit on the warm side in Perth today, but here we're down at about, I believe, -2, -3 Celsius, so if you wouldn't mind sharing some of that with us, just a couple of degrees, I'd greatly appreciate it, and you probably wouldn't mind either. Before we go any further, I do want to give a shout-out to my wife, Katie. Happy 26th anniversary, sweetie. Absolutely love you, and unless I tell you to listen to this, you probably won't, because I know you're not a footy fan. Still working on that, folks. Still working on that. But it's been 26 great years, couple great kids, couple crazy dogs. The only thing I would change, and I probably wouldn't even change this, it'd be nice if the house had a second bathroom, but, well, we've managed to get so far with just one, so we'll continue to make that work now, won't we? So, before we get into the interview today and the discussion today with my guest, I did want to take a couple of moments and give a shout out to the club of the episode. They are the Grovetown Pirates. Now, this is a club you've probably not heard of before. If you're in the U.S., you might have. They are the newest club in the U.S. AFL, and they were formed by a couple gentlemen that I had on the podcast back in episode 91, and that is Jawan Belair and Khalil Sample of the Steez and the Don YouTube channel. These two young men fell in love with footy a couple of years ago and started a YouTube channel where they are live streaming their reactions to games, discussing the results, just some really, really interesting stuff that they're doing over their YouTube channel. And they actually got the opportunity this past year to go out and play footy with a couple different clubs throughout the state of Georgia where they happen to be located, and fell in love with the game itself actually out on the ground. And they decided, you know what, we need to get our own club started around here. We've got the talent base in order to do that, and they've had a lot of success in bringing players into the side and getting themselves organized and getting the club up and running, so they're going to be playing games as of next year. So, Jawan, Khalil, I wish you guys all the best with this. I'm hoping to get you guys back on to talk about the club itself here in the very near future. It's been very impressive what you've done, kind of emulating what has happened in the last year and a half or so with clubs like the Birmingham Bushrangers and the North Texas Devils, both new clubs that have come into the comp as well. Now, also, one other thing I did want to mention, if you haven't seen their logo, I will put a link to their website up on the show notes. The jumpers that they've designed, I think, are absolutely fantastic. And I'm hoping that they do, in fact, create some stickers for the club, because I definitely want to display one of those in my classroom. So, guys, not wanting to put any pressure on you there, but if you do make any, I hope to be able to hang one of those up in my room because, the school where I work at are the Perkins Pirates, so it definitely fits in. So, my guest today is a gentleman who is a huge Magpies supporter, but he's also... He reminded me a little bit of myself in this regard, because during our discussion, as you're going to hear, he's somebody that, of course, like every supporter of their club, wants to see their club win every game. But he's kind of the same mindset that I have, where other than that, he wants to watch 8 great games that weekend, or he wants every game to be a great matchup and a smashing competition between the two sides, not necessarily hoping that side A or side B wins. So I think you're going to like this discussion. I do hope you'll check out the website, which we'll talk about in the closing as well, over at yankonthefooty.com. You can find everything related to the podcast there. So let's go ahead and dive into my discussion with Con Sotidis. Con, an absolute pleasure to talk to you, sir. A true gentleman. I've enjoyed engaging with you in other situations offline, dealing with other issues surrounding LinkedIn and that sort of thing. It's been a pleasure getting to know you. And folks, I hope you enjoy the discussion.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My guest this episode is a gentleman that I met in a discussion forum about using LinkedIn strategies. He's extraordinarily well-versed in that. He's a business development manager at Big Red Sky in the Melbourne, Victoria area. I am thrilled to welcome longtime Magpie supporter Con Sotidis to the podcast. Con, thanks so much for getting up early for me this morning, sir.
No worries. Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate it. It's always great to talk AFL.
Yes, I'm thrilled to have you on here. It's you're somebody who has kind of a unique history, and I think that you had mentioned that you're in one of the rooms that I was in, that your family had emigrated from Greece when you were, I believe, 3 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, great memory, Craig. Great memory.
No,
Yes.
go ahead.
The big move. Yeah, we made the big move back in. And in fact, this is where the story gets even juicier. We moved to Australia in the first week of October. And if you know your AFL, you know that the grand final is held the last week of September. And that last week of September was 1966. And if you know your AFL history, you'll know that's the year Collingwood lost to St Kilda by 1 point in the grand final. So here we are. We've travelled thousands of miles. We've landed in the port of Melbourne a week after one of the most heartbreaking losses in the club's history, losing by a point to St Kilda in the grand final. Little did I know then, 3 years old, didn't know much. And then we get picked up by my uncle, who just happens to live a drop kick from the Collingwood football ground, Victoria Park.
Okay.
The spiritual home. Actually, it is a virtual drop kick. Actually, growing up in there was an experience, and you had to follow Collingwood. It's a bit like growing up in Cleveland, I suppose, or growing up in Boston. You got to follow New England, So it was an experience. But by living so close to the ground, you were part of that sort of culture. So yeah, that was an experience. And so when we migrated there, and then growing up there, was just an amazing experience. And I could talk more about how growing up there, the sort of things that I witnessed, the sort of culture that I saw. I mean, football is, but more those days was still very much a very what you might call it, nomad sort of nomadic sort of very much tribal, very tribal. Collingwood was known as a working class suburb, so a bit like, let's say, maybe a Detroit. If I'm looking at a bit like that, yeah, Detroit, very very much working class suburb, and we were separated. The border was separated by one street called Victoria Street. On the other side of Victoria Street was the arch rivals Richmond. As you know now, Richmond is very successful. And there was a massive arch rival. And then the other side of the border is separated by another arch rival called Carlton.
Okay.
So we start seeing the establishment, and it's happened, but more, we established what we call the big three, and later on we saw Essendon. So the big four clubs in Melbourne are Collingwood, Carlton, Richmond, Essendon. Traditionally, that's always been the case.
Now, I will mention right now there are some D's supporters who are tuning out and saying, we're going to go find something else to listen to at this moment in time.
No, let's talk about the D's. The D's have a traditional stronghold because they're the most sort of established and traditional club. And what is it with the D's? I don't know if you know the history, but the Melbourne Cricket Club is stationed at the Melbourne Cricket Ground.
Right.
And when you joined the Melbourne Cricket Club, you were traditionally a Melbourne supporter. So the Melbourne Cricket Club is a very much an established cricket club, very much based on membership. It's average 25-year wait to become a member. So at the moment, we put our children down from birth, and hopefully by the time they're mid-20s, they've got a membership.
Okay.
That's the long one. So a lot of the Melbourne supporters have traditionally emanated from that sort of environment.
Yeah, I had a...
They are very much an established club, but they would never, and maybe the Disney supporters can write into us and tell us, but they've never been considered to be a powerhouse club like the Collingwood, Carltons, Richmonds and Essendon's because of the membership base and so forth. They're very much
Plus, it took him 57 years to win a premiership too.
Exactly. I haven't said that.
The rest of them just turned out.
And if it wasn't for Collingwood beating them in 1958, they would have gone and done the four. Because they had 56, they had 55, 56, 57, and Collingwood beat them in 58, and then they won 59, I think, in 60, something like that, and then 64. So the dominant team, Barassi, and all those sort of players, they know from that. But anyway, go back to my story. So we grew up in an environment where it was very tribal, and I still remember the days, Craig, growing up at my uncle's house, and my uncle had a long driveway, and because we're just a drop punt away from the ground, we would sit at the front, and it was those days. It was I think the currency had just changed. We went from the pennies and shillings to the dollars and cents.
Okay.
So we would sit at the front and put a $2 up, meaning $2 for them to park there all day, because parking around the suburbs was very hard.
Right.
So my uncle's driver would fit 4 or 5 cars in, and we'd make $10 for the day. That for us kids, kids of 6, 7, 8 years old, that was gold.
Yeah, absolutely. So how long had your uncle? How long had your uncle been in Australia? Because I'm guessing he had been to Greece as well.
Yeah, he migrated about a year and a half before us, so he hadn't been that long either. Yeah.
Okay.
But he had other family members that were established there from about the 50s, the 40s, and the 50s.
Okay.
So other members there.
So while you were only 3, you don't have a lot of young memories of Greece because you were 3 when you left. But what, as you're growing up, what do your parents tell you about the difference between where you're growing up now in Australia to where they grew up in Greece? Or what was the culture shock for them like?
Oh, massive culture shock. You're talking, Craig, about people being dropped into a country with no language. So it's a bit like me now being dropped in the middle of China. I'll be stuck. I'll be devastated. So they come here with no language. They've come here with a virtual suitcase with their belongings, having sold up everything, and they've lived with family members until they can establish themselves. My father was good. He was a hard worker. He's passed away now. He's been about 7 years, but hard worker. We managed to buy a house within the first year and a half because he worked very hard, a lot of overtime. He was in the Ford Motor Company here. So then he went on to General Motors. So we had manufacturing then. Worked a lot of hours, worked a lot of overtime. I remember there'd be times when I hardly saw my father for weeks on end because of all the 12-hour shifts, and I've been a young boy, in bed by about 8 o'clock. He was still at work. There would have been a couple of weeks before I even saw my father, to say hello to him. But we managed to get a house. But the lifestyle was so different in that he's gone from being a farmer and a shepherd in Greece to being a factory worker and having opportunity. I mean, even though he's always had to use his muscle, he's always had to use physical labour. So therefore, he's gone from physical labourer in the farming and the shepherd sort of and doing that to working in a factory and getting paid appropriately and being able to give his family opportunities. It was a big deal. And then language is still a big issue for my parents. My father passed away, my mother. They've never really actually picked up the language because what happened here, Craig, was because the community had enough English-speaking Greek people, they were able to help each other translate and get across various issues.
Okay.
So they never had a need to learn the language. And then as we grew older, we went to school, we knew the language, so we were able to help our parents a lot more.
Right.
And my parents still struggle with English language, or my father's passed away. My mother very much still struggles with English language.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that your dad had worked with Ford because that's one of the other reasons why I'm wearing this shirt that I'm wearing because between my grandfather, my father, my uncle, my cousin, and my brother-in-law, there were almost 170 years of working at Ford.
Wow.
So I have 2 Fords parked in front of my house right now. So we're definitely a Ford family. So that's one of the other reasons why the Cats were appealing to me when I decided which club I was going to support. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't look good in stripes or hoops. I don't.
How'd you know now, but we've lost all that manufacturing. Ford's moved out. General Motors has moved out. We've lost all those companies, which is a bit sad. But
right.
Yeah. That's why it moves, but it's very disappointing and very sad.
Yeah, we've lost that. We still have some manufacturing here, but they're now subcontractors that have moved into the old Ford plant. The General Motors plant here in the city where I live is closed. It's sad state. A lot of our industry has left this city. We have a a massive amusement park here in town, which is and plus I live right on Lake Erie, just about an hour west of Cleveland. So we are very much a tourism destination for people. So we rely on people coming to visit us. So that's where a lot of our money comes from nowadays.
But Craig, the good thing was Ford and those that provided food on the table for our families, provided my dad, my father an opportunity to work and get compensated and buy a house. And I still say to this day, I mean, I still never forget this emotional story, but I never forget when my dad was passing away, had dementia. I sort of kneeled in front of him. I said to him, thanks for coming to Australia. Because it was a big move, Craig. It's a big move. So Thanks for coming to Australia. I really appreciate everything you've done for me. And I actually finished up, I whispered in his ear and said, thanks for the Collingwood Magpies. And he starts laughing.
Now, did he become a Magpie supporter while he was?
But he was never into it. But that would ride on the joy of my joy. With me being happy, that would be happy too.
Okay.
Because I would see the pain and suffering. Because if you know the history of the Magpies, there's a lot of pain and suffering there. We're talking about 45 grand finals, only having 14 premierships, whatever. So 15 premierships. So you're talking about a lot of suffering there by a large group of people and very loyal, dedicated supporters. So they would ride the highs and lows with us. And although I never went to a lot of games, still was very much interested in their fortune.
Well, if you were near the training ground, you probably got to see a lot of the club as a child growing up, where you could, you're over, looking over the fence, or you're there watching. So that had to be exciting, being able to see all of this.
Those days they didn't have the facilities, so they would run around the streets of the suburbs. That would be their training run. And we'd just stop there, watch them, see the new players coming in, watch them train around the ground. It was just a different environment. And then they got facilities, they were training in the house and all that. But those days, they do a lot of the training around the suburbs, the local parks, whatever the case may be.
So do you like the game more today? Or do you kind of wish it was kind of like it was back then, where it was maybe a little more tribal and a little bit closer to home? But
look, we had to. There's a couple of things here. We had to expand for the sake of the game, so we had to make it a national game. It was a Victorian-based game, as you would have read the history. Right. You're very well versed in history. You're a very educated man, so it was very much a Victorian state-based game, and there was some rivalry there. So in Australia, Victoria, South Australia, and WA were the three predominant states that played AFL. Because you have on the eastern seaboard, New South Wales and Queensland were the predominant rugby league states, and they still are predominant rugby league. So we had to expand. I think expansion has been good. I've liked expansion because we've seen a lot more capable footballers, a lot more talent come in the game. What I think we've done is some of the rules I think I'm not as happy with. I think some of the rules have become very interesting. And don't want to go back to the past. No.
Sorry.
Exactly. Stand. That one there really. And then I think, having said that, I think that one there, but it's created more opportunities where players can run on and create some opportunities. So to some extent, people have been critical of it. I think it gets used to it. But once you get used to it now, I think it's like any rule, Craig, it's the administration, the policing. So is someone jumping up and down standing? No. Is someone moving, left? Before the stand rule come out, we had the left to right, left, east, west. I would say east, west. You would have heard that. East, west, which means they can go across. And then we've got the stand rule, which means they can't move. Look, some rules you're probably not excited about. I think that I've become, in my later years, I've moved on from being a one-eyed Con supporter to a football lover.
Okay.
So I love watching talent play. I love watching Petrarca. Petrarca is just the most exciting player. Bontempelli, one of the most exciting talents we've seen on the game. Petrarca, you got the guy, you got Gordon, you got Jackson, the ruckman from Melbourne. You got you got players like Morton from Footscray, the astronaut they call him, And you got some, and you notice not talking about Congo players here because I think there is some great talent out there that I love watching week by week. And during the winter months, I would say that I would watch and attend probably out of the 9 games that are on during the week, probably 6 or 7 I'll either be watching or attending.
I try to get to at least that many, but I try to get every game each week. Because it's during the summertime and I'm a school teacher, so I'm off in the summer. So I have very strange hours in the summertime because 7 o'clock in the evening games are 5 o'clock in the morning for me.
So where do you get them? What you got a pay TV provider there? What do you got them? What do you get them on ESPN?
We have a. If you're an international fan, you can buy an international membership, and they have what's called the Watch AFL app. So I get all of the games live or on demand. All of the programming from Fox Footy. I wish they would just work out a deal where they would put on the front bar and things like that on there, because I'll see that from time to time on YouTube. But I mean, I enjoy watching that sort of thing. And
it's fantastic. And once you know the characters, it's great. Yeah. And look, I'll give you another little insight. This is not much people know about me. Not only do I love the game that much, I also work at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So I'm a customer service supervisor there. So not only do I watch the games, I actually get to see all the other games as I'm a customer service supervisor at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So I get to be part of the environment. So I've not missed the grand final for 25 years because I'm either watching or working.
Okay. Well, except for the last
two. Yes.
Yeah, which I'm sorry about those. Yeah, but it's
but the ones that we've had in Melbourne, because as you know, it's a lifelong contract. I have it at the Melbourne Cricket Ground.
Right.
It's one of those perennial. And now with what's happened, because I've lost the last two, I think they're going to give them a few extra years on their contract. But it's great being part of the atmosphere. It's also great to watch other supporters react. Mm-hmm. When you're not aligned to those two teams playing, you become an observer, and it's just amazing to watch the behaviours. And you say to yourself, "Am I like that?" And sometimes you realise when your team's playing, you are like that.
Yeah.
So it's a good reality check for me to say, you know what, pull it back a bit because that's ugly, or that's no good, or that's because one thing we pride ourselves about here, Craig, is that, and I've seen it in America, it's NFL, it's a family sport. You can take your 5-year-old son and feel safe. It's not like just the European soccer where you actually got a lot of aggression and all that. Mm-hmm. And we don't segregate our supporters here. We actually mix. I would sit next to an opposition supporter at a grand final.
Yeah.
So there's no segregation. There's no that. We actually mix and we all join together. And that's what I like about the game in Australia.
Yeah. And one of the things that, me coming into the game so late in my life, I don't have in my DNA that disdain for another club, because if as a Cat supporter, which club is supposed to be at the top of the list that I hate, and it's supposed to be Hawthorn, and I don't have any animosity towards Hawthorn. As you mentioned, you like watching good footy. Of course, I want to see the Cats win every round, but other than that, I want to watch 8 great games of footy. I don't care who wins necessarily. Now, of course, if it helps the Cats on the ladder, I'd be silly not to want that kind of an outcome. But I want to watch 8 great games besides, the Cats winning.
I love you've done your history here, Craig. I mean, you know the role between Geelong and Hawthorn. That's just for someone who's living overseas, that's very admirable. You've done your history and you know the rivalry, because for us it's for Collingwood, it's always been Carlton and probably a bit of Richmond. For Geelong, it's been Hawthorn. Every team's got a bit of rivalry. And I just admire that you've done your history, you've done your reading, you know the rivalry. That's great.
And I actually mentioned this in my last interview. I said the one thing that I like to do as often as possible is I like to recommend to the AFL that they schedule Richmond to play one more game at Marvel each year than they typically would do it. Just because I know how much they love going there.
You remember when Dimmer came out and said, he goes, "What put us at Marvel? Supporters don't come there." But Dimmer, everyone plays at Marvel. We're all gonna. It's the AFL ground. We've all got to support the AFL.
Well, I find it just blew my mind last year because they played the Giants there last year, and I believe I think there were like 18,000 fans. It's not like they had to cross a crocodile-filled river on foot and cut through jungle with snakes and that sort of thing. They had to get on the subway, or they had to get on the train or whatever and travel.
Nothing. I think they can walk across
5 kilometers, right? Something like that.
Yep. Yeah. They can virtually walk it if they had to. Yeah, this is a team that comes out and tells us they've got 100,000 supporters. 18,000. This is a team that promotes a big time. 100K. Good on you, Tiger Army. 100,000 supporters. Go, Tiger Army. 18,000 turn up. Give me a break.
Well, yeah. Now, full disclosure, if you're a Tiger supporter who's listening, I'm starting to work on my preview for this year. I do think the Tigers are probably going to be back in the 8 this year. And if they're healthy, I think they're going to be pretty damn good this year, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So,
and they picked up talent now from North Melbourne. Their backline's going to be more, short up there. I think they picked up talent. Great pickup, magic pickup.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be really good this year. I'm tipping the Tigers to be up there. Definitely.
Yeah, I think so too. And I didn't have Melbourne in my 8 last year, so I did have the Bulldogs in the grand final though. So
really? Well done. That's a good pickup.
I had them in Geelong in the grand final, but the Cats, they ran into Melbourne, and I told people, I said I thought that there were more than one Max gone out on the ground, because he's absolutely everywhere. It's
I think
amazing.
For the Cats, that loss at Cardinia Park, was it round 20, 21, being 7 goals up and then losing to Melbourne, that really hurt them.
Yes, it did. And I think that really was a springboard for the D's to go play finals. And I was able to talk to Frank Davis, who played on the 64 premiership team with the D's, because his son lives here in the state of Minnesota. And I talk to him online all the time. So I had the two of them on for an interview right before the grand final. It was great to talk to him. Yeah, it was, because he ended up being the I don't think he was the list manager, but he's like the recruiting coordinator for Hawthorn when they were winning all their premierships. So so he had some good history with that too. So, where do you think that? Well, let me ask you this question first. Was it time for Bucks to go?
That's a very, very good question. As we are very much a family of Collingwood supporters. We discuss as a family. I had a lot of faith in Bucks and probably still do. I think what happened was, and I'll give you a bit of history. I think the fabric of the club was ripped out once the Adam Treloar trade had gone through. For me, the most disappointing part was when what is written, when Buckley told Treloar that his own players didn't want to play with him. That was, for me, disappointing. And I think some of the players also probably lost a bit of faith in Bucks then too. Lost a bit of that sort of belief in him. I think Bucks tried to retrieve it during the year, but it was always evident with the start of the year we had. And we've always had injuries. Look, and everyone gets injuries. Don't get me wrong. We don't want to blame injuries. Was it time for Bucks to go? I think, honestly, truthfully, with a hand on heart, yes.
Okay.
If you give a coach 10 years, I think 10 years is enough to rebuild and start again and rebuild again. 10 years gives you 2 times to rebuild.
Right.
Now, you got it. The unfortunate thing with Bucks is that we came so close to 2018, and that really hurt. He would have gone down as a premiership coach, and that would have been his big claim to fame. He probably would still be around. To lose it on that last kick, again, I talk about the pain the Collingwood supporters have gone through. I'll never forget that day, being there with my family. I just can't believe. It still haunts me, Craig. It still haunts me talking about it. I've never watched the replay. I've never watched a second of that game. I do recall one incident. Towards the end of the first quarter, my brother-in-law texts me and says, "This isn't a bad game over." And I said to him, and I look at the text, it says, no, long time to go.
Yeah.
And I said to him, never, ever again send me a text when we're 5 goals up, because you don't know what it's like being a Collingwood supporter. Well, so, was it time for Bucks to go? Yes, it was.
Well, do you think that, you look at also the Jaden Stevenson trade, which, they got, granted he had a lot of injuries, but they took a lot of youth out of that. You got to know
Jaden Stevenson. I don't know if you've seen much about what you might get much news about Jaden, but Jaden's had some issues since then. He's been caught out a couple of times.
Didn't he have like some gambling issues or something?
Yeah, gambling issues. Yeah. He's a bit of a problem child. I don't think supporters have worried about Jaden. I know he was a rising star. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player. I don't think supporters are worried about Jaden, but they're really concerned about Treloar. Now, Treloar, he was a high position getter. They killed the position. He wasn't efficiency was really, really average. But he was a high position getter. And he was an in and under player in the middle. You could put him in the middle and pick up the ball for you. It was a bit of a runner, had a reasonable sight, 40-odd metre kick, pretty accurate, a bit of a ball magnet at times. Even in the grand final, you would have seen he was quiet, and then he came through a couple of times. So I really was hoping that the Bulldogs would win it for him, because I like going Treloar. That incident, then we also lost Flip. We lost Flip to Hawthorn too, so then he left too. So once Flip left and we lost Jaden, then we lost Treloar. That recruitment manager's gone, as you know. What's his name? Ned Guy. He left. Derek Hines still there. I like Derek, but I think Derek's got time to go too. They brought in Graham Wright, a good Magpie player, premiership player with the Collingwood, done very well with Hawthorn. They're brought in Lepage as an assistant coach. I think I've got a lot of time for Lepage. I've heard him, he didn't succeed as a Brisbane Lion coach, but I've heard him speak. He was at the Tigers as an assistant. He's a great assistant. And I think McRae is something different the club needs. Okay. He's got pedigree in relation to the clubs he's been. I'm going to give him 2 years, Craig. I think within 2 years we should be knocking on the door of the 8.
Okay.
We'll see how we go.
Okay, yeah, and I'll have to tell you, I'm a huge Treloar fan. I heard him on an interview, a podcast that Narrowly Meadows does. That was just the stuff that he went through as a young person, and just to come out where he is. I mean, you can't help but wish him all the success that he has wherever it is. Now, you said you were hoping that they were gonna pull it out for the Doggies last year. Now I did. My students had finished up. I'm always trying to promote the game at school. In fact, the principal at my school is now an Essendon supporter. So, but and I I had my class yesterday finished up their exam fairly early, which I haven't graded it yet, so I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I turned on the second half of the D's and Bulldogs grand final, and there's this they're seeing the score where the Bulldogs are up, I believe, by 13 points at that point in time. And I said, go ahead and watch and see what happens here. And they're watching this, and they're seeing that the D's go ahead and outscore them by about 100 points in the second half. And some of the kids have seen some clips and some because I'll have games on in the morning during the school year when the games are happening. When they come into my room in the morning, it'll be be on the television because I'm watching. But they were just amazed.
What age group? What age group are these kids, by the way?
Predominantly, they're high school kids, so mainly 16, 17 years old. Yeah, and a lot of them are high school athletes. Because we have, we've got the USAFL here, which has been around for about 25 years, and there's about 50 teams that play in that league here in the States, all over the country.
Didn't Coxie come from that? Didn't Cox come from that league? Or?
I think he played in there for a little bit. I know he was back here in the States at the Nationals, the national championship in Austin, Texas, back in, I think it was October. I think he was there.
Yep.
Yeah, because they had the Nationals down there because they didn't play that the last 2 years either.
Is he a bit of a cult hero? Is he a bit of a cult hero for the American followers?
For the people who follow the game, yeah. But again, if you're not somebody who follows the game, no, people don't have a clue who he is.
There's this big YouTuber, this guy is an ex-NFL guy. He has won a couple of times.
Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He loves that guy. He loves the guy.
Well, he loved it for a while, and I've somehow managed to get blocked by Pat McAfee's show on Twitter. I still to this day don't know how it happened because I don't say negative things about anything. But when there were no American sports being played, he got on the AFL bandwagon really quickly and just embraced the game, which was fantastic. But as soon as we started playing the NBA and as soon as baseball started back here, the sponsors of his program started to whisper in his ear, talk about American sports. Don't talk about this other stuff. Talk about the ones that we're paying you to talk about. And you don't hear much about the AFL from him anymore, which, I appreciate the fact that he did, try to spark some interest in it while it was it was the only game in town, but, we
had Coxie on a couple of times.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. And I've not had him on the podcast. I'd love to get him on. I've not reached out to him.
You should reach out. Coxie's good. Yeah. You should reach out to Cox. He's a good man.
Yeah, he seems like a great gentleman.
Right,
but in fact, I had one of my students went to run track at Oklahoma State University. He was a track athlete there. So you said that you don't see the Pies in the 8 this year and probably next year, but maybe okay.
Maybe next year. So, look, if we can get to about 9th or 10th, I think we'd be very, very happy.
Mm-hmm.
Miracles happen, Craig, and things can happen. I think we need some. I think we're lacking a quality forward at the moment. We're lacking quality forward. They don't know what they're going to do there. I mean, Jamie Elliott, we haven't got a Lynch. We haven't got a key forward. Every team, you got Richmond got Lynch and Rewald. Now, that's why we regard Richmond highly. You got Aaron Norton and Keith, what's his name, at the Bulldogs. You got, look at all the good teams. You look
Hawkins and Cameron.
Exactly right. Look at that. Now you got some good. I mean, Hawkins is getting a bit old, but Cameron's there. That's all right. He's good. You look at Melbourne. You got what's his name? The guy with the slick hair, and anyway, they got a good forward line too. McDonald's still there. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Fritsch. We've got the slick hair. Well, Fritsch and McDonald's still there. McDonald's a good player. Then they move Gordon in the back, and they can move Gordon and Jackson different roles. We're lacking that now. I'm surprised they kept Cox. Now, I think when they kept Cox, they're going to try. If they've kept Cox, they've got to play him now because we all thought Cox was going. Now, if Cox is staying, he's going to get a game because they got rid of Lynch. So they've got rid of the other guy to Hawthorn. So they've got to play. It was a Lynch or Reef. I kept mixing up which one it is, but they got rid of one of those tall guys. So they've got to play Cox in the forward line. If they play Cox, Cox came on the scene. Cox is a unique beast in our game.
Right.
If only he learns how to use his body, he would be a star. Mm-hmm. How do you know this game? It's all about position. That's why Dusty Martin does so well. You can see Dusty Martin one-on-one in the square. He never loses a contest.
Right.
He's strong. He's got a good centre of gravity. Can use his body. Can push the player around. Can manoeuvre them and take them up. Mm-hmm. That's what Dusty is so good. Whereas Cox needs to learn that skill. If he learns that skill, we've got a potential. We've got a great ruckman. He'll come good again this year. Mm-hmm. The midfield, Pendlebury's a bit injured. I think he's getting a bit old. I like to see Tay there. We're going to see Braden Maynard move into the middle a bit more. I'm confident we've got a really good list. Yeah. Just need to keep forward.
Well, the guy that, if somebody said to me, and maybe it would be Brody Grundy, but if somebody said to me, you can pluck one player off the Magpies list and put him on your squad, I have to say the one that I might take would be Brody Majacek. Because he's like a Swiss Army. He's like a Swiss Army knife. He does everything pretty darn well, and it's just he's not a superstar, but he's not certainly not embarrassing himself out there. But he's doing everything at a average to above average.
He had an average year last year. His kicking wasn't as good as what we've seen in the past. Remember this, Brady Majacek was a mature age. Brady Majacek was a mature age recruit, which in our game, mature age recruits don't do as well. So that means they've not come through the system, the 17, 18-year-old drafted. They go into play in the other minor leagues and they get picked up at 23, 24, 25. So those guys are very rare, and to come as a mature age recruit and to do what he does, it's just awesome. It's just amazing. That was one of the best picks we've had.
Right. Now, I have to ask you, because I was doing the math when you said that you moved in 1966.
Yes.
Which means that you must be 58 as well.
59.
Okay, so so you're a little older than I am. You were born in 63, correct?
2. So
62. Okay, I was born in 63, so we're roughly the same age. Do you ever stop and think to yourself, gosh, I can't believe I'm sitting here calling a 23-year-old mature aged?
No, but I look at the game and see that it's a young man's game. 23 is at your peak. So when you get most of that game, once you get 25, 26, it takes 2-3 years. Look at Petrarca, you look at Bourne, you look at those guys, look at what they Bontempelli, look at them. Sadly, our game, Craig, unlike your game is physical, but our game is also not only physical, but it's also taxing. And that's why you'll see your game, you can play midweek. You see European footballers, they play midweek. They'll have 3 or 4 games a week. Our players cannot play more than 1 game a week. They'll be exhausted. In fact, we have 6-day breaks, so you can see the players are struggling at the end of the third quarter or early fourth quarter. It's a very taxing game. One, you've got to be fit. One, you've got to be physically strong. And 2, you've got to be mentally tough too, because it's a week-by-week game, but you've only got 6 days, maybe 5 days, maybe 7 to recover, and the body is just so sore.
Yeah.
As you see, it's a very much, like I think it was McAfee who said, he goes, these guys wear these little skimpy little shorts, no padding, and they jump 5 metres up in the air, and they come down, and they keep on playing.
Right.
I think people, they're just amazed, with an NFL player, They might get hit, but they got all this stuff on it. And AFL players got nothing. Well, they just got one of these.
Yeah.
So when they get kicked in the ribs, they get kicked in the ribs.
They get kicked in the ribs. Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge baseball fan, but I don't like what the league here in the U.S. and Major League Baseball is doing to the game. So I haven't watched an inning of baseball in 2 years, and I'm so thankful for Footy having, filled that void over the last 5 or 6 years. It's been an absolute blessing. So this is.
So Craig, what was the first game? What was the first game you saw, Craig? What was the first game you saw?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember what game specifically it was, but I work I also announced the football and soccer games for the high school where I teach, and I would come home on Friday nights after the games, and there would be a game on. And I honestly don't remember what the first game was that I saw, but it had to be fairly early on where I was seeing. Nakaya Kakatu playing. So it was probably 2016 that he first came on the scene with the Cats. 2016. I don't think it was 17. He had a couple big games with them, but it just was. I was just starting to learn the game. Still trying to figure out what's with all the whistling, which is something that the kids even asked me about just yesterday. Well, what's with all the whistles? And I, explained. I've shown them a couple clips in terms of here's kind of the rules of the game and how it works and such. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But I was just watching the games on the cable television channel here because they would have 2 or 3 games on each weekend, and I just started gravitating towards it, and I just fell in love with it, and then I was going to mention to you I actually have a sticker on the back window of my van that says I support 2 teams, Geelong and whoever plays Hawthorn, even though I don't really mean it.
I love it. You are a diehard, man. You really are. You would have seen a sticker like that anywhere in the States, not in Australia. But that's great.
Yeah, it's and I've started I have a huge drafting table for my desk in my classroom, and I've started to cover it with Footy stickers. So I've got like 40 of them on there now. So I keep mentioning. I said, if anybody's got one, drop one in the mail. I would be more than happy to display it because I have somebody who just dropped a Brisbane Bears sticker in the mail. I've
got heaps of stickers. I should send you some. We got, as a Collingwood member, you get stickers every year. We don't use them. I should drop you some. Let me know. I'll drop you a couple every year. Every year we get a membership. I'll drop you a couple of stickers.
Twist my arm.
No, easy.
I mean, I would.
You got my email address. Send me your address. I'll send some in the post to you. Yeah, every year, as part of our memberships, they said us we all got a membership, so we'll get about 6 or 7 stickers.
Yeah, I mean,
I just stick them anywhere I can.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Kazi Pickett and Max Gawn and Daisy Pierce and Bailey Smith stickers.
Wait a second, I'll show you something which is a rarity. 1 second.
Okay.
I'm about to take off the Can you see that?
It looks like Nathan Buckley. Yep, that button there. Yeah.
Look how young he was. That's when he was playing.
Yeah. Well, the hair doesn't look a whole lot different from when he was coaching. Yeah, and it's
that's amazing. So that's one way. Cool. I bought this one with somebody else. So this would have been. He was playing in the early 90s. So this is 90s. This is about 20, 30 years old now.
Okay. So is DeGoey going to play this year, do you think?
Okay, this is an interesting one. I love my game. I love my club. But I want DeGoey out. He's not good for the culture of our club. We don't need people like this in our game. And more importantly, we don't need people like this in our club. Now, I believe in innocent until proven guilty, definitely. Uh-huh. But the guy's got enough incidents on the board now to show there's a bit of an issue there. You can get off on it all the time. You might say, okay, well, I've always been in the wrong situation, the wrong place. But look at Dusty. Dusty had a couple of issues. Now look at him now. Nothing. He's learned his lesson. He's learned that he's a football player and he's got a commitment to his club and to his players. Dusty was a bit of a rebel in his young days. He had a lot of issues.
Okay.
But he settled down. He won 2 North Smiths, a couple of Brownlows, a couple of premierships. The guy is, even though he looks so different on the field, he's a model club man. He loves his players, he loves his club, and he's there for his club. I think Jordan DeGoey just needs to take a lesson out of someone like him, who he considers to be one of his mentors. DeGoey talks about Petrarca. Petrarca and DeGoey are very much the same vintage. DeGoey is a very skillful player,
Right.
But Craig always believed that the club is bigger. I believe the club is always bigger than the individual. That's my view.
So
now, I love to see him play. I'd love to see him get out there. I would, as a Con supporter. But man, geez, I've had enough.
Maybe they could work out a deal with the Bulldogs and trade him for Treloar, bring him back.
When I traded for, not for. I tell you what, I would have put him on the draft. If we've got a number one pick for the next 2 years, I'd put him on the draft table. Yeah.
Yeah.
If we can get a number one pick from someone like Gold Coast or something like that, I'll definitely put him on the table.
Okay.
I'm surprised. Yep. He's a good talent. The kid's got a lot of talent.
Right.
Just got to get his head right. And it's, you know what it is, Craig? Kevin Sheedy, the great Kevin Sheedy, when he was a coach, he said, we give every young player an opportunity to own a house. Every player that comes in the system has got an opportunity to buy a house outright. I'm talking about a house, talking about, a couple of $100K. It's what they do after that counts. I have mates. You know Shuey? You know Luke Shuey from West Coast, the North Smith medalist of 2018?
Right.
I was his team manager when he was playing with my son when he was 8, 9 years old. I can show you photos of Luke Shuey sitting there, the young 9, 10-year-old kid. But you could see the kid was going to make it. You know why? He knew where he was going. At 10 years old, this kid knew what he wanted. His family was all around him, supporting him. As a team manager, you know what it's like when you're a team manager. You need to find a scorekeeper, a bell monitor, an umpire, a side monitor, His father will be the first one up, say, Con, what do you want me to do this week? And I'd say, because the family embraced him.
That's very cool.
They were always around him. And he made it. It hurt me to see him win the Norman Smith in that premiership. It hurt me a lot. But I was so deep down, I was very proud because I knew this kid when he was 10 years old.
So in a way, as heartbreaking as the loss in 2018 was for you as a Magpie supporter, there was that little kernel inside of you that went, damn, I'm proud of this kid.
I wrote to Luke. I said, Luke, I showed him a picture of where I was his team manager. I said, Luke, it hurt me a lot, but mate, congratulations, well done. I still have memories of you aiming to be the best. Not only you're a premiership player, but you're now Norm Smith. That's in our game, Craig. Premiership and Norm Smith. The only thing you're missing is a Brownlow.
Right.
And I said to him, and he actually said, "Thanks, Con. I remember the days when you were our team manager." So it was really good. It was nice.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
You got to. You know what, Craig? I always said to you, I'm a football lover. I'm a Magpie supporter, but I'm a football lover. And I actually said, I'm going to give this kid I tweeted him. I said, well done, Luke. Very proud of what you've achieved. Hurt me a lot, but very proud of what you've achieved.
So who's going to be
that takes a lot of guts to do.
Yeah. Who do you think is going to be the biggest bolter? I think the term is bolter up the ladder this year. Who's going to be the biggest surprise this year, do you think? And jump into the 8 that maybe we haven't seen.
I like what Essendon's doing. Essendon's building up a good list. I think they've got Parrish there. I think he's a really good player. They've got Chambers there. What's his name? I think it's his name there. Yeah, I like what Essendon's doing. I think they're going to really make a difference. I think Carlton with a new coach, they've lost one of the players due to the vaccine rules. They've got a good list. Again, it's going to be injuries. I think Carlton might also finally maybe break into the 8 and maybe get a bit of a finals game. They need it. They really do need it for their club. Giants, for me, are always one you've got to be careful of. They've got that talent. They've got this raw talent. And they've got Leon Cameron. Leon Cameron's just got this knack of being able to get players up. I think if Camilio can find his form again, and you get Green come in, and he settles down a bit, I think the Giants might be another one to watch. They're my sort of picks out of the blue. I think North Melbourne will struggle. I think Geelong will be thereabouts. I honestly truly think Geelong, with all due respect, Craig, I think Geelong missed their chance probably 2 years ago. Yeah, not going to go down. I think they'll be top 4, top 6 around there.
Yeah.
They're not going to go down. They won't go down the ladder. Geelong doesn't go down the ladder. Geelong doesn't rebuild too many times.
Right.
They managed to maintain it. I think Richmond will definitely be up there. So looking at people outside of the 8 coming in, I think Richmond will definitely be top 4 easy. Who else is there? Carlton, North Melbourne. Who else have I missed? Anyone else you think I missed?
Maybe St Kilda.
Saints. The Saints are one of these teams.
And I tipped Fremantle in the 8 last year. I tipped
Yeah.
Fremantle into the 8 spot last year.
Did you hear they've extended Longmire for a couple more years? So that's going to be interesting what Fremantle's done there.
Yeah.
So I like Longmire. He was our coach, assistant coach with us. He was good for us. He was really good. Again, with Fremantle, I can't see a lot of that. They've lost Chera to Carlton.
Right.
So I think they've lost a bit of talent there. You get what's his name, the sentiment. He's getting old now. I can't forget his name.
Nat Fife.
Mundy.
Oh, David. Yeah. Well, he's not getting. And again, this gets back to what I mentioned to you before about our age there. He's not getting old. He is old, even though he's 20. Even though he's 20-something years younger than both of us.
He is old. He's not getting old. But he keeps playing. But five's injury prone. I think Fremantle will be again struggling this year. I really do. I think West Coast, they're too proud of a club to be where they are. I think they might come through in the top 8. But I still think Richmond. I think Melbourne will be up there, and I think I like what Essendon's doing.
Okay. Now I heard there's an American there's I think there's basically 3 of us here in the U.S. that are doing podcasts about footy, and there's a young lady that lives in New York City, and she had a line, and I sent her a note about this because I said I never thought about it this way. But I think in a way that you're kind of right, because she said that the Cats reminded her, the way the Cats rebuild their list, she said it reminded her of a Ponzi scheme, which I thought, if you stop and think about it, that's in a way that's not necessarily wrong, because they keep trying to pay the investors, right now, and not necessarily the ones in the
we don't see Geelong rebuilding a lot. In our history, we don't see Geelong rebuilding a lot. For me, I have issue with Geelong too, because I think 2011 we should have won it. And if it wasn't for, even though we all were happy to see Podzagli go down in 2011, we thought, okay, this is ours. That really changed the whole dynamics because Tarrant didn't have an opposition player. And then when Stevie J went on Tarrant, he just demoralised him. Mm-hmm. So that worked. Pods actually going down worked well for Geelong in that game, because I think if they kept the structure with Pods in there, we were going to win that game. We were ahead of that game, even going to that third quarter. I'll never forget. Yeah, have you seen the 2011 grand final? Have you watched it?
I have not. I have a 2011 Premiership hat that somebody sent me, but I have to find that game online. I've not watched that one.
Watch the game. Watch the game. For me, the turning point of the game. Watch the game. You'll remember this. So I'll put this on the podcast. Watch that game. It's towards the end of the third quarter, and Darren Jolly, the ruckman for Collingwood, punches the ball from the throw-in automatically out of bounds. Now, the rule is if you punch it from the ruck over the line without hitting the ground, it's a free kick to the opposition. Now, this is in the pocket. At the MCG, it's where Geelong's kicking to. Mm-hmm. Bartolo gets the ball, and he kicks a goal. Collingwood's still in lead by about 9 points. That was towards the end of the third quarter. That, for me, was a turning point. Geelong got the momentum and then just went over.
Okay.
For me, Malthouse lost that game because he didn't. Yeah.
Now, did you end up playing footy when you were growing up? Did you get involved with it?
Oh, look, we all did. But I mean, never really one to have the talent to do it. No. But we all did. We all tried to have a crack and have a go. But never really got into it. Never any good at it. So just thought I'd stick to the following.
Okay, that's all right. So who do you think is going to be the Magpies breakout player this year? The one that's going to kind of get you looking forward a couple of years and thinking, okay, things are going to be all right.
I like I like our back line. I think Braden Maynard, I think I like him a lot. I think he's going to move into the midfield. I think he's going to get a lot of positions in the midfield. If Braden moves to the midfield, we'll get a bit of a go from midfield. I think he'll do it. I think who else is going to break our player? I really think Nick Dacos coming in is going to get a game. He might not get a game in the first round, but I think by round 5, Nick Dacos will be in the side, I'd say.
Okay.
I think Josh will really come of age this year. Josh Dacos.
Right.
Sadly, I think the Brown boys, one of them will probably have to disappear. I think one of them will go. But I think I'm looking forward to watching Nick Dacos and Josh playing well. I want to see, I'm going to make a call. I think Bianco can go the next level. So Trent Bianco for me is going to be the one I'm going to look at to see what he can do. Bianco can go the next level.
Okay.
Let's hope he does.
Sounds good.
Shrimp Bianca. That's once okay. Put that on the podcast and we'll revisit that in the end of September and see how it goes.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you before we wrap up here, I wanted to ask you some kind of questions that are not necessarily footy related, but just to learn a little bit about you. Cause I like to do that towards the end of the episodes here. A lot of people like to ask, what keeps them up at night, but I wanted to ask you, what helps you fall asleep at night? What, when you crawl into bed at night and you go, okay, I don't have to worry about that. And you're sawing logs right after that then.
I've got a new system that just developed about a couple of months ago. I listen to rain and river flowing music.
Okay.
So I've got myself on these flat headbands with speakers in it, and I put on my Spotify and I find river flows and rainy music, and I find I'm out like a light within about, because I've got a sleep app, I monitor my sleep app, and I'm out like a light within maybe 4 to 5 minutes. Cool.
So you wouldn't recommend you wouldn't recommend the true crime podcast that I'm listening to then, huh?
No. That's a bit of an insight into me. I fall asleep with to rain or river flowing music.
I'll play that sometimes. I'll play that sometimes in my classes when kids are working on assignments. It's kind of just some background music and such. Yeah. So, do you have a favorite quotation or a mantra that has taken you through life?
Yep, I have one. Seek first to understand before passing judgment. Okay. That's always try to understand what the other person is going through. Try to understand what their pains are before trying to pass a judgment on who they are or why they do something. Okay.
Now, what's the best advice anyone has ever given you?
Jeez. You get a lot of advice. You get financial advice. You get this advice. I think the best advice is being my wife, and that's being believe in yourself and you will always come out on top.
Okay, that's good.
Sometimes we go through stages where we doubt ourselves. We doubt what we're doing, whether we're changing jobs, moving to our own business. Just believe in what you're doing and you'll always come out on top. That's been the best advice anyone has ever given me.
Okay, now we're going to look at the other side of the coin. What's the worst advice you've ever gotten?
Follow Collingwood. No. Worst advice? Oh, geez. Worst advice is, I've got a scheme for you that's going to work. And I think to myself, oh no. So I did Amway for a while. I think it was right. I picked it up. I did it for a while, but just wasn't. It didn't work.
It wasn't.
The worst
for you,
advice was picking up Amway.
Okay. So you still have.
You know many Amway people in the States?
Oh, I know what Amway is, but I haven't seen one of them in a long time. But I'm guessing you still have several years worth of laundry detergent stored away.
Mind you, that was several years ago. Yes, it's those sprays and the detergents that are killing me.
Right. So, besides being involved with Amway, is there anything that you wish you could do over?
Oh, jeez. Yeah. No, not really. No, think about it. You know what? Like anyone, I suppose, I'd love to go into sport, whether it be cricket or soccer or AFL. I'd love to go into sports management. I think I've got the knack for sports management. So not managing players, but maybe more event management. I think that would have been something I think I would have done well because I'm very good in organising, scheduling, communicating, bringing things together. So I think sport event sort of management would have been something I would have loved to have done.
Okay, so when you're not at work and you're not watching footy, which seems to be a huge part of your winter time, what is your passion? What do you like to spend your time doing away from work?
Well, as you would have seen when we first met, that's my passion.
Okay.
80% of my spare time is spent. I don't watch CSIs. I don't watch NCSs. And I don't watch all those acronyms. My wife is into that. We've got every streaming service available, Craig. I watch none of them. So the family all watches it. So we've got Paramount, we've got Netflix, we've got Disney Plus, we've got Apple TV, we've got all of them. I've never watched one of them. My passion is getting online and trying to always improve myself in business development, in LinkedIn, and always trying to interact with people and learn and keep on learning. I never think you stop learning. You never should stop learning. But my passion is to always continue to see what other people are doing in the LinkedIn space, which is ways, where we met, and trying to continue to improve and share.
Okay.
That's my passion.
That's a terrific answer. I have to tell you, I don't watch a lot of those shows, but I have found myself watching a lot of, my favorite streaming service is one that's called Acorn TV, which has a lot of British and other European, but then also a lot of programming out of Australia and New Zealand as well. So
give me a couple you like. Give me a couple of British ones. I love my British comedies. I love my British dramas.
Doc Martin's what I love. But Midsummer Murders is one that I really like. Foyle's War.
Good. Okay, all right, yeah.
But then there's
the last series I watched was Squid Game. I thought Squid Game was interesting, but not many other people liked it. But I've watched Squid. Have you seen Squid Game?
I have not. My wife has watched it. I haven't watched that yet. Yeah, it's on my list, but
that was the last one I watched just because the kids convinced me. Then once I got into the second or third episode, I got hooked. But aside from that, I think Money Heist, first series of Money Heist years ago, maybe I watched that. But apart from that, not much at all. No.
Okay.
My wife, like your wife, will sit there and just binge watch a whole weekend. Bang. I go, how do you do it? She goes, I love it.
Well, I did watch. I found a deal on HBO here in the States for 6 months where I watched Game of Thrones for the first time, which I thought was phenomenal. Yes. But I watched it over the span of about 6 weeks. And one of the main, and I don't know if you've watched Game of Thrones, probably not.
The first season, yes.
Okay. Well, there's the one daughter who is wanting to be the warrior Arya, the youngest daughter. Well, I'm watching this over the course of 6 weeks, and there's so here she is as a like a preteen in the first season of the show, which the show lasted about 10 years in real time. I'm watching it in about 6 weeks, and I get to the final season where she's having a rather interesting love scene with a character on there, and I'm feeling extraordinarily awkward watching this person that 6 weeks ago was about 10. So it was one of the most awkward things I've ever done on television. It's like, am I allowed to watch this?
She grew up.
Well, yes, I did, but it just that condensed time was kind of strange there. Yeah. So what's your proudest moment in life?
Oh, my kids.
Okay.
My kids.
And
I've got 3 kids. And
3 kids. Okay.
My oldest son is 30. And the proudest is that they're all Collingwood supporters. I suppose it works out well. I'll tell you a good story. My son, this is where my son was about 6, 7 going to primary school, just started what we call our prep years, our first years. And he came home one day, and at those days, Essendon was dominant team. And he goes, Dad, I want to change teams. I said, sorry? So come over here. He goes, what was that? I was a bit hard of hearing. He goes, I don't want to follow Collingwood anymore. I said, are you serious? Are you serious? He goes, yeah. So what happened? He goes, my friend at school, he's an Essendon supporter. They're getting a lot of premierships. I said, listen, 2 things in life. We never change our religion or our football team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind you changing the football team, but you're not going to go to see another game for the rest of your life. You're going to be going by yourself. And at 6, 7 years old, I don't know who else is going to take you because you've got no other uncles who follow Essendon. You've got no other relatives who follow Essendon, so you're going to be on your own. He goes, all right, I'll stick with Collingwood. And he never forgets it. So I'm proud of my kids, my whole family, and my wife happened to be a Collingwood supporter. We go as a family. We're a family, Collingwood. So when we go to the football, we go to the football as a core unit of 4. He's now married. He's moved on, but he still goes. Mm-hmm. But we go as a core unit of 4. We go to all the games together. We live the ups and downs. So my proudest moment is having my kids, and that we all together enjoy the same sport.
So was he playing on the same youth team with Luke Shuey then, when they were growing up?
Yes, he's the one. Okay. Yeah, he was the same youth team. Yeah.
Okay,
he was in the under 10. What they call them tackers. So they call. I only heard Auskick. Auskick is our program for the juniors.
Right.
So he was in that, and then they moved into the Bulleen Templestowe Club, which is where Luke Shute came from, and they were playing for 2 years together. There's a couple other players in there who got drafted, didn't make it, but Luke was the only one that went all the way. And you know the deal here, similar to the NFL, once your player gets drafted to the big league, the junior club gets a massive cash bonus.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know he works in the NFL. Don't get NFL players university. Don't always say, I'm University of Carolina or University of Kansas. Don't they always make out what university they come from?
Mm-hmm. No, they don't. The schools don't get any money from the NFL at all. No, that's in fact, they've just in the last year or so, the National Collegiate Athletic Association has finally allowed the players, the college players, to actually market themselves and actually kind of get paid almost like professional athletes as college athletes. No, that's never been. In fact, they used to be extraordinarily restrictive on what college athletes could do, but now
it's not the schools that get paid here, it's the club. So here you join a club and that club develops you, and that club takes you and then you get drafted by one of the big teams. So the club gets a cash back. If your player gets drafted in the first year, you get an incentive. I think it ranges from a couple of $1,000s as an injection, which is for a small fledgling club. That's pretty good.
Yeah, because I was looking, just at the, at the pies list. There's, you've got what I see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players who were from the Oakley Chargers on that list.
Oakley Chargers is where it's a major feeder. Yeah. Oakley Chargers is a feeder. You got the Geelong Falcons, where a lot of Geelong players play. So what happens is, they used to have a competition called the NAB Cup. Did you ever see that? The NAB Cup, which is a pre-season competition.
I've heard of it. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, now I know NAB's.
Yeah, it was a pre-season comp. It was NAB is a major bank. National Australia Bank is a major bank in Australia. So they were sponsored the NAB Cup. So every time a player kicked a goal in that pre-season cup, their junior club would get $1,000.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was a really good incentive. So every time, they'd go back and say, okay, here was your junior club. Yep, bang. So if you kick 3 goals for the game, you get 3,000 going to your club, your junior club. It was a really good incentive.
So that meant nobody wanted to play defense. Everybody wanted to go. Everybody wanted to go score.
Correct. That's right. But it was a really good incentive because it made the players, and it was being given back to the clubs because grassroots footy here is where we have a lot of people registered to play soccer. We have more soccer players registered at junior level than AFL players. But AFL is still a dominant sport when it comes to this country. So there's more young kids registered as soccer players. But when it comes to AFL, they all want to play it with AFL's where the money is.
Do you think that the perception maybe with parents is that soccer is a safer game for their youngsters to be playing?
I think you're right. Craig. I think it is. I think you're right. It's a bit like maybe when you're in environment, maybe playing lacrosse is safer than playing NFL. I don't know. So I think you're right. I think they think it's a safer game, but the kids that persist with the AFL and do make it, they're the ones that are. You're talking about a rookie here who starts at about 80 to 100K Australian dollars. So it's about maybe, about 60, 70K US opening salary. Yeah, 60, 70K opening salary for a first-year player. Then once in the first year, they automatically can negotiate a contract. You're looking at minimum 250, 300 for the first, second, third year. So what are you looking at there? 150K a year, 200. That's why Kevin Shetty says we can buy you a house in the first 3 years.
Right.
In the first 3 years, you're getting. Remember, some of these kids are living at home.
Yeah.
They've got shared accommodation, so the expenses are very minimal.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, 3 of the Cats selections in the most recent draft were all from the Geelong Falcons, and I had all 3 of them on the podcast a few weeks ago.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that was
good connections. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I reached out. I reached out to all 3 of them on Instagram and would you be interested? And they were. I had about a half an hour with them. It was.
Who'd you get?
Oh, Cooper White and Toby Conway and Mitch Nevitt. Yeah. Who all 3 had played with the Falcons.
Yeah. That's it. Geelong Falcons is where the feeder is for Geelong. Chargers is a feeder for a lot of the suburban teams here in Melbourne. And Oakland Chargers have got good. You got the Chargers. You got Assumption College, which is a lot of the other kids. That's their school they come from. but they've all played for one of those sort of teams. So we'll see how we go. It's going to be an interesting season. I can't wait. I mean, I hate cricket. That's our summer sport. You got baseball. That's why during our summer, I follow NFL with a passion.
Okay.
So that like you know how you hate your baseball, you watch AFL. I hate our cricket and I watch the NFL. So luckily we have the NFL to watch over the summer months, and it's great fun and I enjoy it because summer for me is a very, very boring time here in Australia because the sport is not engaging. We have the soccer league, which is not as good quality league. It's just a little bit like the MLS. It's a very average league. So for me, lucky for NFL and lucky for games we get live, and I just love it.
Yeah, I don't watch a whole lot of. I mean, I announced my high school teams for soccer, the school teams, but other than that, I don't generally watch it because I joke with people that soccer is a communist sport because they don't let you use all your body parts. So
yeah.
So
look, I think it's a skillful game, but it's not as taxing as NFL or AFL. It's not as taxing. It's not as demanding on the body.
Yeah,
I think it's not as demanding
and I just like the one big thing that I always wonder is just the whole thing with the offsides rule is that you in some ways you get penalized for being faster than your opponent.
Yeah,
which is
or more clever. Yeah,
yeah. It's just I don't know. It's always been something that I've never been able to figure out. And it's, I enjoy watching the kids at my school play, but I don't need to have it go any further than that though. So, I think we've covered everything here. I was going to ask you about, how do you you kind of addressed this already with what makes you proud with your kids, but the last thing I want to ask you, and maybe this is going to be the same thing here, but how do you define happiness?
Health.
Okay. That's good.
If I'm healthy, I'm happy. I mean,
good.
Health on myself, health on my family members, my mother's health, my extended family, but more importantly, my family's health, that's happiness.
Mm-hmm. That's
great. Everything else, I think, is just by the wayside. It's just not even worth it. What is it? Don't sweat the small stuff. That's it.
Right. Yeah. I had a little bit of a health scare back in August, and since then I've dropped about 30 kilos since the middle of August. So I've made some significant changes in my lifestyle here. So.
Family, Craig. You don't want me asking. You have family?
Yeah, I have. My wife and I have been married for 27 years, I think. But we have an anniversary coming up next week. I should probably know how many years it's been. I know it's more than 25, but yeah, we've got my youngest daughter. I've got two kids. She's studying to be a school teacher as well, and my son is he's an officer in the U.S. Navy. And he's assigned to a ship on the East Coast of the United States. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You get to see much?
Not as often as I'd like. You get to see for
Christmas?
No, not.
Are you going to see for Christmas?
My daughter's going to be coming home for Christmas, but he's actually going to be. He's taking some leave, but he's going to be staying at home in Virginia to do some studying because he's finishing up some qualifications on his ship, but then he's also trying to get into law school as well to become an attorney, and to work as he wants to work as an attorney in the Navy. So he's trying to go to law school through that. So he took the entrance exam, what they call the LSAT here once, did pretty well on it, but he wants to try to do a little better on it. So
you don't want to know the truth. God damn it! You don't want to know the truth.
That's I don't know if he has. I don't know if he has that movie or not. He's got a lot of movies, but I don't know if he has that one. But yes, that's what he wants to do.
You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yes.
That Navy guy was a prosecutor.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. The Navy guy was a prosecutor. Was prosecuting, so that was good. Yeah.
Well, I actually liked the third person because Demi Moore was in that, but then the other officer there was a guy by the name of Kevin Pollak, who was a comedian. He's one of the funniest comedians out there. Just a very funny guy.
I know, it's even a serious role. I know, it's amazing.
Yes, absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to thank my guest, Con Sotidis for coming on to the podcast. Sir, it was an absolutely fun discussion. Love talking footy with people. Love learning more about footy fans. I mean, that's kind of what I've have gravitated towards, and getting the unique stories, and the fact that you emigrated and you fell in love with this game, and your family embraced the game as well, is absolutely terrific. And I appreciate you carving out some time in your Saturday morning to sit down and talk with me.
Thank you, Craig. It's been great. It's great to reminisce. It's great to sort of look back and see, how I've come to love the game. And I think, like I said, I'm most grateful to my parents come to this country and giving me the opportunities, but also giving me what I would call, and I know it's been biased, but the greatest game in the world. I've seen other games, and I love my NFL, but, football just sits there.
Well,
so I really appreciate it, Craig. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
You bet.
It's been awesome. If you ever want to do it again, let me know.
Absolutely. I will do that. Thank you. Cheers.
And again, a huge thank you to Con Sotidis for coming on the podcast last week to sit down for discussion. I mentioned to Con, and then I reached out to Michael Gallus, who I had on the show a couple of weeks ago. Just a couple of extraordinarily positive people. And in fact, the gentleman that I interviewed a couple of days after I spoke to Con, who happens to be an American living in Australia, it's just kind of continued that whole progression of positivity. And I don't know if it's just something that's kind of rooted in Australia, and I know rooted is not the right word to use, that it is based in, if you will. So I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to edit that out there, but you get the idea that it's planted firmly in Australia. This idea of positivity there, and it's in spite of everything that's gone on in the last couple of years with lockdowns and things of that nature. So it's been great to talk to some absolutely wonderful people that are just so excited, so positive about their outlook on life, their footy clubs, that type of thing, and the things that keep them active and busy. Now, don't forget that you can find everything related to the podcast over at my website at yankonthefooty.com. I hope you'll consider checking it out. You can get on the mailing list there. You can leave me a voicemail. I'm also hoping to set up discussions with supporters of all 18 clubs to do previews of each of the clubs. So if you're interested in doing that, you can go over to the register as a guest button at the top of the page and sign up for that. I'm looking to set up as many of those as I can in the near future. If you want to help out the podcast, you can click on the bottom left-hand corner. There's a little yellow circle there. It's the Buy Me a Coffee page. You can support the podcast there if you choose to do so. If you want to check out any of the swag from the podcast as well, you can click on my Redbubble page up there in the store at the top. It'd be great if you would go ahead and do that. Now that you've listened, I hope you'll consider heading over to Apple Podcasts or on my website and leaving a 5-star review if you like the show. And that allows me then to share that out on my socials to and by all means, if you're enjoying the show, I hope you'll consider taking a moment and popping up on your socials your favorite episode, or mentioning to your friends that, hey, there's this this Yank, hence the name, who loves this game, and maybe you haven't checked out this podcast yet, and you might actually like it. It might be a great thing to listen to on the drive to work or the ride, on public transportation, or if you're out for a run or whatever with your dog or whatever the case may be. I'll just walk my dogs if that's okay. Be greatly appreciated. So you can do that over on Apple Podcasts. You can, that gets into their algorithm. It'll hopefully trigger it a little bit and get it out in front of, get recommendations out to more and more people. But you can also now, and this is something that's actually changed just in the last few days, Spotify has also set up the ability for people to not leave a review necessarily, but to leave a rating system there. Like it's up to a 5-star rating system over on Spotify. So if you listen to the podcast on Spotify and you want to leave a rating over there, that'd be greatly appreciated as well. I think that's going to work in their algorithms as well as putting it up in front of people. It's a recommended podcast if enough people like it. So if you want to help out the show, that'd be fantastic. I would love for you to do that. Now, again, don't forget that you can reach me over at yankonthefooty@gmail.com, or on Twitter at yank_on, or on Facebook and Instagram at yankonthefooty. I do have the DMs open over there. You can send me a message by all means. You can also find my podcast over on my YouTube channel by searching out my name, Craig Wessels. And you can also get on the mailing list over on my website as well. So when a new episode comes out, I can go ahead and get that sent out to you first before anybody else. And when I do live episodes, which will be coming up here again fairly soon, with the new season beginning to start in just a couple of weeks now in the AFLW, we'll be doing some live episodes again here very shortly. And I always send out the invite to the people on the email list, letting them know when that's going to be happening. So if they want to come on or have questions, that sort of thing, that'd be great. Now, folks, we're coming up on the end of 2021. We've had a couple of very tumultuous years with regards to COVID, but now we have a whole new variant, Omicron, and we'll see what they come up with next. I think they're going to have to spin the big Greek letter wheel on Wheel of Fortune to find out which letter we're going to come up with after this one, because I'm sure there's going to be another one coming out. Not being a conspiracy theorist, but I think the way these things work, they do tend to mutate, so we'll see what happens. But stay safe, look out for each other, love one another. I hope things go fabulously well for you in 2022, and that there are no obstacles that are in front of you that preclude you or prevent you from doing the things that you want to be doing. I hope that we're able to just kind of put this stuff in the rearview mirror and say, you know what, let's get on with it. So, as I was saying before the batteries ran out on my pod track here, I hope we're able to get back to everything that we love doing, everything that we want to be doing here in the near future, and that our lives get back to some sort of normalcy here. And I hope that that normalcy includes, of course, you getting to do what you want, live your life the way that you want, and finding some time to check out my podcast, of course, because, this podcast has kind of been ensconced in the pandemic. So I'm hoping that once we come out of this thing, that people still have a soft spot for the podcast in their day, and they can find time to check it out, and will hopefully still be interested in it. Now, folks, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening. We're coming up on the second anniversary of the podcast. I'll have an anniversary show. It's going to mainly be my AFLW preview for 2022 coming out this next week. I'm working through the ladder in terms of how I see it playing out. Hopefully I get the clubs that are going to be in the top six. Again, I missed Melbourne completely last year in the men's comp. But, we're fans of this fantastic game. I appreciate those of you who have engaged with me for sharing your game with me, because it's been an absolute, I don't want to say a lifesaver, but it's been something that has become so much a part of my life that I look at it now and I'm thinking, where the hell would I be without it? I mean, I honestly, I don't know where I'd be without it, because it's become so much a part of me now. It's kind of like it's ingrained in me now that it's that footy has become, and so integral to me. I actually had a student recently who had to do an interview assignment for one of their their writing classes. Well, he decided he wanted to interview me to talk about Australian rules football, which kind of lets me know that maybe we're starting to dip a toe into the game here a little bit at my school. Not that it's going to be leading to the game getting grown there or anything of that nature, but in terms of the interest in watching it. So it's been great as far as that goes. So I do hope that if you like the show, that you'll go ahead and share a link to this episode, or maybe your favorite episode, whatever that might happen to be, with your friends and family out on your social media, because word of mouth helps to get the show in front of new ears. But folks, I truly, truly thank you for tuning in. I truly, truly thank you for coming along on this journey about the podcast with me. And as always, folks, may your dribble kick never hit the post. I will catch you later. This has been episode 117 of A Yank on the Footy. Don't forget that you can reach me at Yank_on Twitter or to yankonthefooty@gmail.com. And you can also find me on Instagram and on Facebook at A Yank on the Footy. Again, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening, and please consider sharing this episode or your favorite episode out on your socials with your friends and family. Until next time, goodbye.